Welcome to the December 8th, 2025 meeting of the Sandusky City Commission. We'll have an invocation offered by Commissioner Kuntz, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Dear Lord, we come to you today humbly, giving you thanks for yet another day in the land of the living. We pray that you continue to give us wisdom, to guide, to direct, and to provide all of our wisdom that we can to make sure that we do the very best for the citizens of Sandusky. Please continue to follow us and guide our footsteps so we may continue to do what's right for Sandusky. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Myers, you call the roll.
Yes, Mr. President. Mr. Crable.
Here.
Ms. Fargo. Mr. Waddington.
Here.
Mr. Brady.
Here.
Mr. Murray.
Here.
Mr. Pajali.
Here.
Mr. Kuntz.
Here.
Commissioners, may I have a motion to excuse Commissioner Vargo?
So moved. Second.
Been a motion and a second discussion. Hearing no objection, that motion will be approved and Commissioner Vargo is excused. Commissioners, you have before the minutes of our meeting of November the 24th, 2025. What is your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner
I
Watt.
move that we accept the minutes of the November 24th meeting as presented.
Second.
Been a motion and a second discussion. Without objection, that motion will be approved, and hearing no objection, those minutes are approved. Tonight, we have a public hearing on Transient Occupancy Overlay District Amendment. This hearing will be conducted by our Chief Planner, Aaron Blair. And as this is a public hearing, we will entertain questions or comments from both the audience and from the Commission at the conclusion of Ms. Blair's presentation. Ms. Blair, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Commission President Brady. This is a complex topic, and zoning is a complex mechanism for regulation. So I brought a slide deck to talk about this proposed amendment in front of you today, are subject to the public hearing. First off, a little bit of background, because we're talking about a zoning overlay district. I want to make sure people understand what that is. So our zoning code has specific regulations, say a residential zoning area. An overlay district it lays right on top of that in our zoning code. It can add or modify specific land use rules, but the underlying zoning of that area remains unchanged. That means how you can use the land, the setbacks, etc. So just an overall definition of a zoning overlay. Next, for a little background, we have one existing transient rental occupancy district. So we have one overlay district in the city that is known as the Cove District. It's here on our zoning map, but it shows up, it's a little bit hard to see because, like I mentioned, all of that underlying zoning stays the same. So if I were to outline it and just show it all in one block, you can see that white outline there. That is the shape of our Cove District zoning overlay district. It was created originally to drive economic revitalization into the Cove District. And if you take that, I wanted to just kind of eliminate all that background noise so you can really see the shape of that zoning district. It's primarily residential land use underneath, so single-family residential, two-family residential zoning districts. The legislators at the time wrote the zoning overlay district in order to maintain the existing character of the neighborhood. So those residential zoning underneath. So that transient rental overlay district allows that commercial use, the transient rental use in a residential district, but the underlying zoning remains unchanged. And you can see the zoning diagram here where it shows the single family residential is the primary land use in the Cove, and then two family residential, there's a couple parcels of other land uses in that area. On the other hand, we also allow transient rental in commercial districts. Because transient rental is a commercial use, it's allowed in 6 zoning districts in the city. Those are all our business and commercial districts. So the screenshot you see here is a little bit of a zoom in. There's a mixture. All of it's green because we have a combined map that makes it really easy for folks to see online. If it's green, it allows it. If it's not green, it doesn't. And that's a way that we've tried to make it really easy for people to understand where transient rental is allowed. This is our #1 phone call in the planning division, so we've done a lot of work to help it be as clear as we can for folks. So our downtown business and roadside business and different districts that are commercial areas do allow transient rental in addition to the overlay district. I mentioned we do have consistent pressure to allow transient rental at more residential properties, and that pressure is one of the conditions that led to the current moratorium we have on any kind of expansion for transient rental in the city. Before the moratorium, there were several properties that changed their zoning to allow transient rental. So there's an example on the top of the right on this slide. It shows a rezoning process that property owners went through to expand the overlay district on East Washington Street. And another example is a property owner went through a rezoning to rezone to residential business on Perry Street in order to enable transient rental. And it was really that expansion of the commercial land use in our residential areas that led us to put a pause on transient rental in the city and talk about how to change and update our policies. So to answer that, we have created a policy shift as directed by the city manager. When the moratorium lifts, and right now it's in place until May, and it's up to the city commission whether that lifts before then, whether it's extended, or whether it lifts according to the current timeline. When that moratorium lifts, and we get requests from a property owner that want to allow transient rental at a residential property, it will not be processed as a rezoning. What we'll do instead is we will direct those cases through a use variance application heard by the zoning appeals. So when a single parcel, an owner of a parcel says, I want to do transient rental, we won't bring that through as a rezoning. We would bring that through as a use variance application. And the use variance process has a really high burden of proof. I don't expect you all to read this slide, but every single point of this slide is in our code, and all of those points have to be addressed in order to argue that a property is appropriate for a use variance. I highlighted 3 of those. The first highlighted one is the property. It asks the question whether a property will yield a reasonable return or whether there can be a beneficial use of the property without the variance. The second one asks whether the granting of the variance will be contrary to the general purpose, intent, and objective of the zoning code or other adopted plans of the city. The third one highlighted asks if the strict application of the zoning code that the variance is requested will constitute an unnecessary hardship upon the property owner or the applicant. And for example, in those conversations, I'll say first, variances are evaluated on a case-by-case basis. We can't say all of them will go one direction or another, but staff will provide training to the Board of Appeals members so they're well-equipped to understand these cases and to evaluate these cases. But on those 3 points, first, the granting of a use variance for transient rental is likely to be contrary to our adopted strategic plan of the city because our strategic plan emphasizes strengthening neighborhoods and preservation of long-term housing. So that'll be a very difficult argument to argue from a property owner's perspective. Also, any denial of a request for transient rental use of a residential property, it's not expected to create unnecessary hardship for property owners because they can use that property for residential living. And again, residential properties have a clear economically viable use, which is long-term residential living. So that's just an example of the burden of proof that those property owners will be asked to bring forward as a use variance case application. Okay, so that is a clear path for how we will consider single-family parcels moving forward once the moratorium is no longer pausing the requests for transient rental. But the question remains if we get requests for new transient rental overlay districts. We had several property owners in the past in 2022, 2023 asking for new overlay districts. Again, we just have the one, it's the Cove. That's what I talked about at the beginning of this presentation. What if we get requests for more? There is language in the zoning code, and it says only planning commission or city commission can initiate the conversation to create a new transient rental overlay district. And there are specific conditions laid out in our code. One, it has to be deemed appropriate in the interest of the general welfare of the city, that it is to be created to spur investment in a declining geographic area with the goal of increasing property values and maintaining homes in that area, and that it be located in areas that are in close proximity to commercial and retail. And And when we were asked in the past to evaluate these questions, something came up over and over, which is, what is a declining geographic area? How do we define a declining geographic area? It is not defined in our code. It is not defined in our comprehensive plan. It could mean a lot of things. It could open up a broad argument without clear interpretation. So the proposed amendment that we're discussing today is to allow the city to define declining geographic area with a future planning process. So if we have a comprehensive plan update, if we have a neighbor plan or other formally adopted plan by the city, we could, in conversation with public engagement, with planning commission, city leaders, choose to define a specific area of the city as declining and appropriate for a new overlay district. But without that formal process, without that formally adopted process, there's no mechanism to create any new transient rental overlay districts. So in a sense, this clarifies our code. It gives us a very clear process to follow, but it also extends and creates public engagement, planning commission review, city commission review and authority before any new transient rental overlay district were to ever be created in the city, if there is ever a new one. So to reiterate that, the proposed amendment language is here in that second bullet point. So we would be adding to be created to spur investment in a declining geographic area as defined in the comprehensive plan or a similar formally adopted planning document of the city. And again, that's not currently in any adopted planning document of the city. So the proposed amendment would allow the city to adopt legislation for the creation of a new overlay district only if that area had first been defined and recommended in a plan. And at their November 24th, 2025 meeting, the Planning Commission recommended that City Commission adopt the amended language. That concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions or comments from the public regarding this public hearing? Ms. Doherty, come to the microphone, please.
Sue Doherty, 1016 3rd Street, Sandusky. How many hearings will be held on this issue, or will it be decided today?
This is it.
Okay. So what would happen if nothing was done and there was, this was not permitted, but to be considered when circumstances justified it's now necessary for a change? And I bring that up because we have a housing shortage. So anything that would be conducive to displacing a permanent residential housing unit for a transient unit is only going to feed the high cost of residential living and also limit the availability for residents to actually live here full time. And so I guess my question is, what if we did not allow this, and when the time is right, a generation from now, when it does free up, when having more transient housing does not jeopardize somebody who's in need of affordable permanent residential living, could we decide it at that time? Because right now we have a housing crisis. So anything that would feed the problem of bringing more permanent housing out of the city of Sandusky is something that I hope you as commissioners will not support.
Thank you, Ms. Doherty. Additional comments or questions from the public?
West Pool, 1939 East Oldgate. First, I have a question. These slides up here, is this the same presentation that was at the Planning Commission meeting? I just don't remember these slides.
No, it is not.
They're not the same. Okay. We can start with what the Planning Commission voted on. This. So my opinion is this. I agree with the two Planning Commission members, it was a split vote, who voted no on this proposal. They each presented sound reason for rejecting the change, and adding the words as defined in the comprehensive plan or similar formula adopted planning document of the city it's a meaningless change. I say this because, first, the comprehensive plan has always been used to justify the transient rental overlay. I have, for the purpose of the June 25th initial overlay ordinance, and I won't read it unless you doubt my accuracy, but essentially at the end it says, therefore, the comprehensive plan is utilized by staff as a factor when evaluating the proposed amendment. So the change after 3 years of conversation does absolutely nothing for us. Second, there really is no definition of a declining geographic area. I would submit to you, just for conversation's sake, that at the time that we approved the Cove area, it was not declining. If you want to go back to the 90s, it was a declining area with lots of problems, but Matt Ruff and John Arnold took care of that. In fact, the city sued them for doing it. So the Cove has been going on an upward scale forever, and it was an ideal place to have for residential folks to build and fix houses. If you flipped them and sold them to residents, we'd have residents there as opposed to Airbnbs. Second, what we have now is just that. You make it what is or is not a declining area. You make it up as we go along with no real criteria or measurement or whatever you can get 4 people to vote for. I don't think that's a good way to do business. Dealing with overlay to a variance by individual property, it's a question of how you look at it. I listened to the presentation, and it sounds good on paper. I would suggest if you go back to the sections that were done in yellow, it would suggest that any residential area, by definition, is ineligible for an overlay. And she'd have to bring it back up, and I could point it out, and I didn't want to debate the individual points. But the fact of the matter is, the purpose of the zoning, it could never meet, the purpose of the zoning is for it to be residential. So therefore, by one of the sections on this new criteria, you can't even have a conversation about it. So it makes no sense to pass this in that regard. Now, in addition to that, consider, and this came up at the Planning Commission meeting by one of the 2 folks who voted on it, voted no, that in actuality, by historically, changing it to a variance, it almost automatically gets approved. And the easiest thing to do if you want to check is just look at the numbers. Variances, people just don't have a reason to say, yeah, this is just to say no. And it gets passed through almost all the time. I would suggest that, additionally, that format narrows the public input. Why? Because variances only require 300 feet of distance for people that are notified of what you're doing. When you do an entire overlay district, it involves the entire neighborhood. They all find out and have an interest in it. So by narrowing it down, and historically the way it works at a variance, that we come up with you can look at the records and see that this is not going to be as tough as it appeared. Now, what I'm suggesting, lastly, I believe we are suffering from unintended consequences. Working families cannot compete in a bidding war for a home with out-of-town investors, expecting quick returns and large profits. Sandusky needs to grow residents and home ownerships. We have over 171 transit rentals in Sandusky. I would say that's plenty for the goal of attracting tourists. Encourage you to vote this down. Allow the next commission to take a look at this and to determine our course forward. If we engage input beyond staff and a couple of commissioners, it won't take long to come up with another conclusion. I would suggest that I don't see any advantage anywhere of adding more transient housing. For every transient house you lose, we add, it takes it off the residential market, changes the demand-supply curve, runs up the prices. We have a community that is financially less doing less well than the surrounding communities. So consequently, what we've done is we've just driven up the price of houses artificially. Even though real estate prices have gone up everywhere, they've gone out exponentially here to where the people that live here can't afford to buy a home. So I hope you vote no. Give these folks an opportunity to look at this. They're going to have to live with this. It doesn't matter whether you pass this today or a month from now. It'll be spring and summer before it matters at all, before you have to apply this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Poole. Additional comments from the public regarding this issue? Comments from commission? Questions or comments from commission regarding this public hearing?
Mr. President, might I ask
Cribble.
just kind of a procedural question? Do you want to have a conversation about this now or at the time that the legislation comes up for vote?
Entirely up to you. It's a public hearing. You can make your statement now if you like.
I don't know. I mean, is this an opportunity for us to engage in questions?
I'd take this opportunity now.
Okay, all right. Well, then if I may. I have so many questions about this. I'm not sure why we need to vote on it today, for example, and why this doesn't go to the new commission. It is the new commission, and I'm echoing comments that have already been made publicly, but it is the new commission that will need to deal with this. It's the new commission that will need to deal with this kind of dangling, uncertain language about declining economic area. To me, I'm not an attorney, but that scares me when you have language like that hangs out there. Yes, we might be able to close that loophole or that open door at some point in some way, but until that time, I think we leave ourselves very much open. So that concerns me as well. I guess the main point that I'm trying to make in these comments is there some urgency for us to do this now, as opposed to allowing the new commission to be able to consider this and weigh in on this? Other comments that I have. I am not comfortable with this going to the BZA. Perfectly good people that serve on that committee, but in effect, it eliminates the city commission elected officials from the process. And you might say, well, no, you can be perfectly engaged now. We're asking you now to pass this legislation. True, but going forward, any decision the BZA makes, the appeal is not to this body, it's to the court. And we're in effect left out of it. Now, it's been suggested to me, as a matter of fact, it was suggested to me just before this meeting began, that, well, the court will just return it to us to look at, to consider. I don't know that that's true. You're furrowing your brow, Mr. Hastings. I'm not at all sure that that's a guarantee in any way. Perhaps the court could. I don't know. The court has jurisdiction in many ways and powers that we probably don't. But I don't know why we set ourselves up for that. I think that elected officials need to be part of the decision process here. I own a transient rental. I'm familiar with the process. I deal with the blessings and the challenges that go along with ownership of transient rentals. But transient rentals, just as a general topic, concerns me in this regard. I think that transient rental in zoning areas that are already identified, the commercial, the 6 zoning areas that we can have transient rentals in, is just fine. But I recently participated, and some of the people here in the room were in attendance. I recently participated in a public hearing about transient rentals. Now, this happened to be about House, you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I think it's House Bill 160, which basically was to strip local government of their ability to control transient rentals in their community. And one of the takeaways from that was a very interesting statistic about our neighbor, Port Clinton. Port Clinton is, in many regards, similar to the city of Sandusky. We're both waterfront communities. Our economies are built on, visitors coming in and spending their money with us, and we welcome all of that. But the transient rental business in Port Clinton, and I can be corrected on this, but that business has all but taken over Port Clinton. Port Clinton has somewhere north of 30% of all of their housing units are now transient rentals. Mr. Tucker, you were there. You heard the same thing I did. Okay, good. What that has done is it has dramatically driven the average cost of a home in Port Clinton up. It's just been stunning what has happened. And if you happen to own a home and you're looking to sell, that's a good thing. But it is a dramatic barrier to entry for individuals of moderate income, moderate means, to be able to afford a home. If there's even homes available on the market, because that's the other side of transient rentals, is that they're businesses. They're operated as businesses. They're not in the regular cycle of home ownership, such that they become available for purchase as a private home because they're so expensive. I have a lot of concerns about transient rentals in general, and I have a number of concerns about this particular proposal, as I've already indicated some of my concerns. And I may bring up some others as our conversation here proceeds. But I think in the best interests of what is good for the citizens of Sandusky, what is good for the supply of affordable housing in Sandusky, we need to take a time out. This is not a good time to consider this, and I'm not sure it's the right solution. I have made my feelings known this past week. I made my feelings known in a meeting that Richard and I had with the city manager, that I'm not sure that overlay districts are even a good idea, period. End of statement. Because I think in some regards, if you really look at what we're doing with an overlay district, it defeats the underlying zoning. It is allowing exceptions to the underlying zoning. I guess one of the, so yes, I'm open to a conversation about just getting rid of overlay districts, okay? Not just getting rid of the one at the Cove, but getting rid of even the possibility of them citywide. The other question that I have, and I don't know what the answer to this is, but I think it's a question that needs to be asked. If there is a neighborhood, such as the Cove District, that wants to be able to have transient rental, why do they not propose that we just change the zoning? Not propose that we have an overlay district, but change the underlying zoning. Go from an R2 or an R1 to a more commercial zoning. To me, that seems the direct path to the underlying question, as opposed to this indirect path that is, or that are overlay districts. Just some of my thoughts.
Additional comments or questions?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Coons.
briefly, because I agree with everything that Commissioner Crable said, and I also agree with what was said by others who stood at the podium. I want to draw your attention quickly to one thing that was really, really important, and that was, and because I watched the Planning Commission meeting, that was this particular presentation may have helped in that particular Planning Commission meeting, and maybe there would have been one more vote, maybe even two that went to the other side, but it was a 3-2 vote. The question that I have is, when we start talking about, we possibly can do this in areas that are economically depressed or distressed. One of the things that I really would like to know, and maybe we need the numbers on this, I've heard about pressure coming from property owners. I'm always asking, well, who are the property owners? Do they already live in the area? Are the property owners from Ohio even, or do they live in New York City, Baltimore, and these other places, in Cleveland? That's what I want to know, because pressure can come from anywhere. But if pressure is coming from the residents that live in the neighborhoods, okay, I'm listening. But if the pressure is coming from outside our city, I don't have a whole lot of stock in that. So I'm in the same place that I was before I was on the city commission, and I'll be in that same place from now until the cow comes home, right? We talk about maintaining the existing character of the district, right? Well, the folks who actually have these transient rentals, these Airbnbs, of course they want to keep them up, but how does that really benefit our community? And how does it benefit when we start talking about distressed communities, right? I remember a gentleman coming in here, and, I was staunchly opposed to what he was talking about. Even though he's from Sandusky, he doesn't live in Sandusky any longer. But he has property. And his property is located in Sunnyside, right across from the East End. And on the East End, they're able to actually have some Airbnbs. Tell me if I'm wrong. If I say anything that's incorrect, please correct me, right? And he's saying, well, you got him right across the street. Why can't I have him over here? But again, he's from Sandusky, but he lives in Pennsylvania, right? And so if you want the properties, the Airbnbs, well, at least get the properties that are in those zones that are already zoned for Airbnbs. It's that simple for me. I'm going to be rolling with the people that can't find homes right now. They can't find apartments right now. I know these people. They can't find places to live. So when we begin to entertain even the conversation about having some additional Airbnbs, I'm going to be staunchly opposed to it, each and every time. That's all I have to say.
Additional comments or questions?
I would just ask Ms. Blair on the question that Mr. Mr. Crable raised about changing the zoning. Is that an option rather than doing the overlay districts? Should originally they thought about changing the zoning down there?
It's a good question, and there's a lot, it opens up a lot more considerations. And I want to say from go, our purpose is to follow our adopted strategic plan and protect long-term housing in the city. And the brainstorming and the conversations that we've had and the solutions we're working on is to preserve long-term housing in the city of Sandusky. And we have a wave of pressure, like I mentioned, of people wanting to do Airbnb because they perceive that it's going to be a good moneymaker or drive up property values or whatever. When you think about a rezoning is a more permanent change, and it allows more land uses. So RRB, for example, allows multifamily housing. The setbacks are different. It allows different businesses. So if you take a residential property and rezone it to more commercial, you're not just opening it up for transient rental, you're opening it up for the whole list of land uses that would be allowed in that district, and it would be a change of the setback requirements, the height requirements, et cetera, in whatever district you propose to change it to. Whereas the overlay district allows only that one specific use that's written into the overlay district. So that's one example of the rezoning consideration. I think it's important to note, too, that it was brought up the comprehensive plan was used to justify rezoning to transient rental, which is true. In our current comprehensive plan, it says both we should preserve long-term housing and it says we should promote hospitality uses in our city. Our strategic plan, however, very clearly says preserve long-term housing, and that's a much more recent document that's been more recently pointed to. When you take a property through a rezoning, that code says, look at the comprehensive plan. What does the comprehensive plan say? When you take a property through a variance process, it says, what are the adopted plans say? So it really gives us a good argument to say that our strategic plan says we should preserve long-term housing and we should not recommend use variances for Airbnb in most cases.
Additional comments or questions, Commissioner?
Mr. President,
Mr. Crable.
if I could point out to Ms. Blair's comment here, if we were to go the route of just saying, look, if you want to do, a transient rental, an Airbnb, VRBO, whatever, you have to change the zoning because of what that implies in terms of changes in setbacks and, additional, density of housing and all of those types of considerations. It would make it even harder to have transient rental because the residents would therefore have to confront that and realize that by requesting a zoning change, they are requesting not a small thing, they're requesting a very big thing that will affect them. So I go back to my point. I think that is a good solution to the current problem.
Mr. Chairman, I think we did have a group that came in and wanted a zoning change to allow for transient rental. And one of the issues why we voted no was because it would allow all these other uses. Like you could put a gas station there. And it was a residential area, and I always think ahead, 10, 15 years down the road, I mean, that might be all right now, but you may have some sort of car operation in a backyard button up to a residential area.
Yep.
As far as Mr. Poole and the Planning Commission, we didn't have any slides. We just discussed it. So there weren't any slides. It wasn't like we didn't know what we were voting on. And the two people that voted against it, every single time transient housing came to the Planning Commission, they voted for it. So I'm not so sure they're against this. They have their reasons. I'm not so sure what they are. And as far as the language, the new commission doing the language, I thought it read on that slide where the new commission would do that vague language, right? You said you were going to work with the commission and a couple of people from the commission. Was that on the slide?
For
the geographic
area, that would be if we're conducting a planning process and it becomes part of the conversation at that point. So that'd be public engagement, city commission engagement, planning commission engagement at the time of that conversation happening in the city, which seems like it's not likely because everything we have so far and what we hear from residents all the time is we should preserve long-term housing.
Yeah. So. One of the issues with the overlay district was I think that people that just wanted to do one house would come in and they'd do the whole block. Now this allows for one house. And as far as doing an overlay district, you'd have to do a whole new study for that neighborhood. I mean, that's going to be a complex process. And Mr. Kuntz, the gentleman you talk about from Philadelphia that wants to go transient, this would allow. He could come in with and request a variance to take that house to transient. So that would solve his problem. But I just think that there's a number of checks and balances in this that, and it also falls back on the committee. You know, the committee has to say no. I voted, I'm the only planning commission member that voted no on every single transient housing application that came to us. So the committee has a big part in it.
Mr. Chairman.
I'm done, Mr. Chairman.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt Commissioner Pachal.
No, I'm done, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. So a little bit of history on this. And I would say that so far we have this discussion 100% backwards, and let me explain why. We were confronted with a lot of pressure to reduce the amount of transient rental in the city. And we had, at the time, a disagreement with the Planning Commission, as Commissioner Bajali has pointed out. A lot of times the applications came up, and the Planning Commission allowed those to occur. we can only reverse a decision by the Planning Commission by a vote of 6 or 7 votes. 7, we need 6. So 6, okay. We need, well, but if we have 7, we still have 6. So I was accurate. We have to have 6 or 7 votes.
6, 7.
Here. Otherwise, we cannot reverse the decision of the Planning Commission. So we have found over the years, we are virtually powerless to reverse the decision of the Planning Commission. I applaud the staff's decision to migrate this process to BZA. That's a much tougher standard. Again, we still need members of the BZA who are going to enforce the laws that have been written, but it's a tougher standard. I think that they know that, and we've much curtailed that. We put in place a moratorium that we've now adopted twice. Nothing is going to happen in terms of an expansion of transient rental unless that moratorium is lifted by the next commission, or if it's not extended by the next commission. What the legislation in front of us does is it tightens the existing opportunity to allow an overlay district. This is actually a restrictive piece of legislation. It is not an enabling piece of legislation. If the moratorium expires, we're faced with the same thing we were before, which is vague definition that's in the ordinance. This makes it a lot harder to squeeze through that option. And if the next commission wants to completely eliminate any future overlay districts, that's the next commission's option. But if nothing happens and the moratorium expires, then it remains easier, as it does now under existing legislation, to adopt an overlay district. So this, I don't much care whether this is something that we pass or not, as long as the moratorium remains in place. But if the moratorium is lifted, I would like to have the overlay district be more restrictive in its language and its application than it is today.
Mr. President,
Mr. Crable.
if I might, I would concur with Mr. Murray in that depending on whatever happens with this particular proposed piece of legislation, that if it is defeated, at least the moratorium remains. Is that contemplated in this? Or is the moratorium expected to?
Well, the moratorium will expire on its own terms in a few months.
When?
I think April.
Okay, so there would be time for the new commission to
Yes.
pick it up.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
the new commission.
That was my point. Yeah.
Right.
Further comments or questions?
Mr. President, last one.
Mr. Coons.
Couple of things, because I wanted to make sure I clarified this. As it relates to Commissioner Pajali, I never said that I wanted the individual to actually have that permission to do the Airbnb. So I want to be clear on that. The other thing that's been said by multiple people who have spoken, whether they're here or whether they came from the audience, is that why now? And I say it's not the best time to actually make this decision less than 3 weeks before we have new commissioners that come on. And I believe that new commissioners should have the opportunity, because that's a long-term decision. Even though I understand what Commissioner Murray is saying, I think that all of these decisions, whether we're talking about this transient rental overlay, whether they're talking about the moratorium, they should play a role. And so that's where I'm standing. I wanted to make sure I clarified statements that were made, because they didn't characterize what I said correctly.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Pajali.
just to respond to Mr. Kuntz, you didn't say that, and I agree with you. But I do remember when that gentleman from Philadelphia was here,
You're right.
he said he was closed out of the process.
Mm-hmm.
So my point is, the variance would allow him to use the process.
Is there no further comments? I will declare this public hearing closed. Thank you, Ms. Blair. Any residents with comments regarding tonight's agenda, I'd ask that you step to the podium and give us your name and address and your agenda comment. Like you're commented out. Commissioners, you have before you several communications from staff recommending various pieces of legislation. Can I have a motion to accept those communications?
So moved.
Second.
And a motion and a second discussion. Without objection, that motion will be approved, and hearing no objection, that motion is approved. Commissioners, we have 13 items on the consent agenda this evening. Any of you wish to move any of these items to our regular agenda? For the second time in my memory, the person who created the agenda is going to move a non-agenda, a consent agenda item to the regular agenda. I'm going to ask Ms. Myers if you will move item M to the regular agenda. The purpose of that is the feel-good story in there. I'd like Mr. Orszak to share with us what that is when we get to that piece of legislation. And again, a rather unusual move. I am going to exercise my presidential powers, and I am going to remove item 2 on the regular agenda from tonight's agenda, and it will reappear at a later commission meeting. Ms. Myers, will you present the consent agenda, less item M?
Yes, Mr. President. Item A, permission to participate in internet sales calendar year 2026. Item B, approval of Third Amendment to Welcome Home Ohio program agreement. Item C, approval to accept 5 parcels back into the land reutilization program. Item D, approval of amended side lot disposition program for land reutilization program. Item E, approval of sale of 20 land bank parcels to Welcome Home Ohio, Great Lakes. Item F, approval of sale of land bank property at 1428 McKinley Street. Item G, approval of amendment to CDBG fiscal year 2025 lead program. Item H, approval of 1-year extension and agreement amendment with Progressive Cleaning. Item I, approval of transportation contract with Cedar Point. Item J, approval of calendar year 2026 consulting contract with George Polis. Item K, approval of calendar year 2026 consulting contract with Robert Statler. Item L, permission to dispose of unneeded and obsolete equipment.
Commissioners, having heard these ordinances, resolutions, what is your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Murray.
I move for the approval of the single resolution and the multiple ordinances in A through L of the consent agenda pursuant to Section 14 of the city's charter.
Second.
Been a motion and a second discussion. I'd like to acknowledge the fact that in item F, the resident who will be purchasing that property in McKinley Street, Ms. Devonna Newell, is with us tonight. She's right there in the center.
Living by me.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for taking a chance on our city and on that property.
Mr. Chairman, two doors down.
Mr. Waddington.
2 doors down from me.
Mr. Waddington is your neighbor.
Run.
We don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
I always got cold beer in the garage.
And he does shovel snow down that way.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah. Oh, man.
Ms. Myers, you pull the commission on that motion.
Yes, Mr. President. Mr. Crable?
Aye.
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Pajali?
Yes.
Mr. Coons?
Yes.
And now on the resolution and the ordinances.
Mr. Crable?
Aye.
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Pajali?
Yes.
Mr. Coons?
Yes.
Those ordinances and a resolution are passed. Congratulations.
Mr. President, if I might.
Mr. Crable.
In the motion that Mr. Murray made, he said the one resolution and other ordinances. There are two resolutions.
Scrivener's error.
Is that a problem?
Not for me, it's not.
Okay. Just want to
It
be
was A
sure.
through L, so thank you.
Just want to be sure.
Thank you.
Ms. Myers, will you present the regular agenda item M now for us?
It is requested an ordinance be passed authorizing and directing the city manager to accept grant funds from the Ohio Environmental Protection Agency through the Drinking Water Assistance Fund program in the amount of $500,000 for the replacement of lead and galvanized water lines within the city of Sandusky, authorizing the city manager to execute any grant agreements and to expend the funds consistent with the grant agreement, and declaring this ordinance shall take immediate effect in accordance with Section 14 of the city charter.
Commissioners, having heard this ordinance, How would you like to proceed?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr.
I
Watt.
move the adoption of this ordinance under suspension of the rules in full accordance with Section 14 of the city charter.
Second.
Been a motion and a second. Mr. Orzak, would you give us this feel-good story?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Snyder had contacted me, and I thought it was an April Fool's joke, but he said that the Ohio EPA had contacted the city. They had a phone call a couple weeks ago now, and they wanted to give us $500,000 to replace lead and galvanized lines. There's no strings attached. There's no match. The Public Works under Mr. Snyder and Megan Stuckey and the folks that are going to be doing the work are pretty excited because they'll be able to put together a RFP and go through a process on how to do this for future applications that will definitely need funding for in the future. So they anticipate 100 or so lines will be able to be replaced with that money. It includes replacing the lines and restoration of the properties. So we're, very grateful for the Ohio EPA. We're only one of 4 cities that received $500,000 for each city. Wow. So we should feel pretty thankful and blessed that the money came this way. So I appreciate Mr. Snyder and his team for going to be doing some hard work here. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Orzak. Mr. Snyder, you're following in the footsteps of your predecessor, bringing cash through the door. Thank you.
Yes.
You got about $80 million to go. Additional comments or questions, Commissioners? Ms. Myers, you poll the commission on that ordinance, please.
Mr. Crable?
Aye.
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Bajali?
Yes.
Mr. Coons?
Yes.
And now on the ordinance.
Mr. Crable?
Yes.
Mr. Waddington? Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Bajali?
Yes.
Mr. Coons?
Yes.
An ordinance is passed. Ms. Myers, you present item number 1.
It is requested an ordinance be passed authorizing and directing the city manager to enter into a contract with Great Lakes Demolition Company of Clyde, Ohio for the Cleveland Road Safety Improvement Project and declaring that this ordinance shall take immediate effect in accordance with Section 14 of the city charter.
Commissioners, having heard this ordinance, what is your pleasure?
Mr. President,
Mr. Crable.
I would move approval of item 1, the ordinance thereunder, in full accordance with Section 14 of the city charter.
Second.
Been a motion and a second discussion. Mr. Snyder, this is the end of the line, or the beginning of the line, I should say, as far as the roundabout goes, is it?
Yeah.
Yes.
I know we've got a good contractor, same contractor that performed a couple of projects for us, streetscape being the most recent, I think. Any idea on start dates, finish dates, completion dates?
Well, what they're telling us is if we would have gave them the okay, they would start next week. But as soon as possible, they want to get in before weather sets and get as much done as they can. They're eager. So this is what they do. This is their 4th or 5th roundabout, not counting the intersection widenings and the other work. But yeah, they're attuned at this.
Great news, great news.
Yeah.
Ms. Myers, you poll the commission on that motion.
Mr. Crable?
Aye.
Mr. Waddington?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Bajali?
Yes.
Mr. Coons?
Yes.
And now on the ordinance.
Mr. Crable?
Aye.
Mr. Waddington? Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Bajali?
Yes.
Mr. Coons?
Yes.
That ordinance is passed.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Bajali.
I just want to note that this is a great price on this project. Now, from day one, this was a $5 million project, so kudos to coming in at 3.7.
Good job. Yes. Mr. Orzak, would you present your city manager's report?
Good evening, Commissioners, audience, and staff. I have a $1,500 donation from Family Health Services for the police department. They'd like to thank Family Services for their support. If I get a motion to accept that donation.
So moved.
Second.
And a motion and a second discussion. Without objection, the motion will be approved. Hearing no objection, that motion is approved. Our thanks for the $1,500.
Parks and Rec would like to thank Cameo for donating 8 pizzas for Meals Out of School. If I get a motion to accept that donation.
So moved.
Second.
And a motion and a second discussion. Without objection, that motion will be approved. Hearing no objection, that motion is approved.
And Sandusky Parks and Rec would like to thank Elizabeth Moots and Leadership Erie County for their work on the Cookie House. The Cookie House is an iconic structure in Washington Park for the holiday season. Specifically, we would like to thank Bill Sarter, Dale Sarter, Steve Sarter, Tim Sarter, and Ron Schweinfurth. They installed the handicap accessible ramp, built new door frames, and a new floor. Susan Zier and Darlene Wood spent several hours repainting the design on the interior walls. We would also like to thank the Myliner Foundation, Whiteman Weber Charitable Foundation for their monetary contributions, as well as Sandusky Paint for donating the paint. Get a motion to accept all that in-kind donation.
So moved.
Second.
Been a motion and a second discussion. Without objection, that motion is approved. Hearing no objection, that motion is approved. With our thanks, the place looks brand new.
It's great.
And the hippopotamuses are all painted. They look good, too. General reminder for property owners of vacant dwellings. If your dwelling is expected to remain vacant and unoccupied during the winter months, we highly recommend that you contact the city to turn off your water. This will help prevent your water lines from freezing and breaking, which could lead to costly repairs. Customer accounting can be reached at 419-627-5893 to schedule a disconnection. Public Works, with frigid temperatures setting in, we'd like to remind residents of a few extra precautionary steps to take to avoid frozen water lines inside and outside the house, including setting thermostats at 55 degrees minimum, insulating exposed pipes, and letting the cold water faucet trickle continuously during extreme cold weather. And a reminder, residents rely on walking and transit as their primary way to get around. And without a clear path, it is especially difficult. Property owners are required to clear their sidewalks and adjacent sidewalk ramps during or immediately following winter storms. We strongly urge residents to assist their neighbors who may not be physically capable of removing snow. Property owners who handle snow removal of parking lots and driveways are reminded not to push snow into the street or opposing tree lawn. Motorists are asked to pay close attention to snow emergency routes throughout the city. In the event of heavy snowfall, a parking ban may be implemented, and any vehicle parked on these streets may be ticketed or towed. Information and updates as the season progresses, visit www.cityofsandusky.com/snow. And leaf collection is still going on. There's a map that can be looked at on cityofsandusky.com/leaf map for your dates on your area. The Welcome Ohio program experienced great success this year. 7 homes saw the start of construction this year. 3 have been completed and are now occupied by their new owners. The remaining homes will be completed in the coming months, with an additional 2 homes breaking ground in the same time span. As new lots are added to the inventory for housing development, we welcome inquiries from potential buyers at www.cityofsandusky.com/welcome-home. 2 new art box projects have been completed on Hayes Ave. One is titled Smell the Flowers by Jordan Evans, located at the corner of Pierce Street, and the second is Free Yourself by Janiyah Prentice on the corner of West Osborne. For more information on the art box program, visit Public Arts page on the city website. And Sandusky Park and Recs would like to ask for permission to apply for the USTA Midwest Northwestern Ohio Diversity Grant. The grant has awards up to $1,000. If awarded, we will use the money to purchase age-appropriate tennis equipment for children ages 5 to 10. If you get a motion to allow us to apply for that grant.
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second discussion. Ms. Marzi, poll the commission on that motion.
Mr. Crable?
Aye.
Mr. Waddington? Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Pajali?
Yes.
Mr. Coons?
Yes.
That motion is passed.
Concludes my report. I'm happy to take any questions.
Comments or questions for the city manager, commissioners? If not, we'll move to items of old business. Any items of old business?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Waddington?
I'd like to thank everybody that stopped at Karen Show this weekend. We did really good. I think close to 6,000 was what I heard, so that's not bad.
Very nice.
It's nice.
Good time.
Additional items of old business? This is only a week old, but I think it's important that we acknowledge we're coming off a good Thanksgiving and headed toward a good Christmas, we hope. But I had an opportunity to view the preparation of meals at Holy Angels Community Hall on Thanksgiving, actually the night before Thanksgiving. And it occurred to me that we have so many people in this community that reach out to people in need. I'm going to miss so many people, but there's two that stood out because I know both of them. That's Gary Ferber and Terry Deso. But there were, 25 or 30 people working that crowd, and it was a crowd. And it wasn't happening just there, but it's happening literally all over the city in a lot of different places. We are so blessed with so many people, just like Mr. Ferber, Mr. Deso, that give their time and break into their own holiday to do those kind of things. So I think it's important that any chance we get, we can acknowledge them. We're a better city because of people like that. Thanks to all of them. Any additional items of old business? Items of new business? Any items of new business? I have some housekeeping issue here. I need to ask for a motion to schedule a public hearing for January 12th, 2026 for the 2026 budget appropriations.
So moved.
Second.
And a motion and a second discussion. Ms. Myers, you poll the commission on that motion.
Mr. Crable?
Aye.
Mr. Wantington?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Marie?
Yes.
Mr. Bajali?
Yes.
Mr. Coons?
Yes.
That motion is passed. Additional items of new business. That will move to comments from residents on any item that pertains to city business. If you step to the podium and share with us your name and address and your thoughts, we'll be glad to hear them. And I'd ask you to keep your comments to 5 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Sean Amos, and I reside at 1730 Harrison Street here in Sandusky. In the past, I've had business with the city regarding the land bank as well as the beautification program. Today, my concern is this. On my street, we don't have any curbs, any sidewalks, any drainage system, no street lights. All the adjacent streets east of me, at the very least, have sidewalks and curbs. The people that I've inquired to down here more or less have stated that their hands are unduly tied, so to speak, without the help of the commission. So I would hope at your convenience that you could look into this matter, because rainwater just sits in front of my house because it has nowhere to go. And being that the city has partnered, I'm not sure that company name, with those new houses, it's obviously going to affect them too because they're on the same street. Thank you.
We got this gentleman's address, do we? We have your address?
1730 Harrison Street.
1730 Harrison Street. Great.